I'd like to tell you this one story. It's a case study from about 20 years ago that I think embodies mold remediation and concerns from homeowners and why they call us and then what we can bring to the table. And so this was a really nice home down in coastal Rhode Island. We had the phone call that came in that the homeowner had her two sons. They were like 9 and 11 years old, and her husband had been getting sick. And she believed it was from the mold. And one son had really developed a bad case of asthma. So as I went and did my inspection, and as I look up on the kitchen ceiling, sure enough, it's covered in freckled mold, surface mold that you would see growing on a bathroom ceiling. And once you see mold on an inspection, you can really get tuned into it. Your eyes get tuned in and you can see this. And as I walk around the house, I see mold on the trim, edges of the windows, on the wallpaper, borders, on the banisters going up to the stairs. And basically, it was pretty heavy on the first floor ceilings and around, and then it got lighter as it went to the second floor. So my investigation then took me into the basement, in which I asked the homeowner, did you ever have a flood down here in the basement? To her response, well, we did. 6 or 8 months ago, we had about a foot of water in our basement. Our hot water tank let go. And I said, well, what did you do about it? Did you contact somebody to clean it up? Well, I contacted our insurance company, she told me, and they wrote us a check for $2,700. And so we went and bought a shop vac and we sucked the water out and we cleaned it ourselves. And so I asked, did you do any drying? To her response, no. So in the basement, I go down, and now the bottom of the basement stairs is a big finished room. It was the kids' playroom. And there was vinyl wallpaper. Now, vinyl wallpaper does not breathe. It's not permeable. It's plastic. So I peeled back the vinyl wallpaper, and sure enough, the drywall was black, solid black, full of mold. I investigate further, open the closet doors, and there's mold on the wall. The kids' toys are piled knee high, and the mold is chest high on that wall. I mean, it's right up that wall. Sure enough. And so now we find out further, the kids' playroom is down there, the laundry room is down there, and the cat's litter box is down there. And so if you think about, here's our source of mold, ground zero. Okay. And so from there, as all that activity runs up and down those stairs, you bring that backdraft with you. They carry the mold spores up to the stairs, and then slowly in an ocean community, a little bit more humidity, they settle on those surfaces and then they grow. So it was originally a $2,500, $3,000 water damage cleanup job became a $35,000 mold remediation project. Not all as a result of really deepening and understanding the extent of the damage in the whole house. And so the moral of that story really is to show that a small issue, drying in particular, if not handled quickly and properly, can lead to bigger issues, and certainly health issues. Now, I'm not a healthcare professional, and so I don't necessarily comment on their situation, but we do know certain molds affect people's health, and we do know certain molds attack the respiratory system. And so with young children, often if they have asthma issues, or they can develop asthma issues as a result of prolonged exposure to certain types of molds. We do see that out there. So that remediation was done, and I think that was a pretty interesting story. I would like to also share with the type and how you develop a remediation protocol. And so developing a remediation protocol probably really varies from company to company and how we do it. And so we look at our company here in EnviroClean, when we develop a protocol, if there's not a third-party independent consultant or air quality expert on the project, we step back and we want to holistically come up with a solution. EnviroClean isn't looking to just do the remediation and then back off only to have mold return, because we know mold will return 100% of the time if the moisture problem is not under control. The source of all mold problems in homes is a result of excessive moisture. How that moisture gets into the house, that can vary. It could be broken pipes. It could be condensation in the attics. It could be a sweating basement or groundwater. There's many, many ways that moisture can get into a home. And so we need to holistically come up with a way to prevent that from happening when we do remediation. So we look at the source and we identify and we eliminate the source of moisture. Once that is done, we can then come up with a remediation plan, which is protect the rest of the house that's not affected. And then, that'll be done through containments. We then go through any kind of demolition protocol that would have to be done. So we look at the surface where the mold is growing and what was the source of the water. If mold is growing on the surface of paneling, is it on the back side or is this paneling up against the drywall? And if that's the case, we have to be concerned there. So very often, porous material or semi-porous material needs to be physically removed. So we physically remove the porous material. The hardened materials like wood can most of the time be cleaned. So then we clean wood or cement or flooring material, and that can all be cleaned. And then we go through that process of cleaning. The cleaning process is one of HEPA vacuum. We call it the HEPA sandwich. The HEPA sandwich, we HEPA vacuum, we wipe down with a disinfectant, an EPA registered disinfectant or antimicrobial, then we HEPA vacuum again. So that's the cleaning process once the demolition is done. Once the cleaning is done, we run these air scrubbers to get all the particulate in the air, all those airborne mold spores, and we capture them in our filters. And then we're comfortable turning that project over to our rebuild team to can help put it back, or to somebody else if our homeowner has another contractor there. This is what's really cool. This mold remediation protocol that we go by, it's not original. It's probably really thousands of years old. It's actually in the Old Testament. If you go into Leviticus chapter 14, verses 33 through 55, it says, "The Lord said to Aaron and Moses, as you enter the land of Canaan, you will go and see a house in that land. The house has mold. You must inspect the mold, and if it has greenish or reddish depressions, and it appears to be deeper than the surface of which it grows, it's a destructive mold that it must be torn out." And so it goes into mold remediation in the Old Testament. And then it says you must call the priest to come in and examine the mold. And then you must remove it and then close it up for 7 days and come back and re-inspect. And if it comes back, it's a destructive mold, and the whole house has to be torn down. It's timbers and framing and everything. And if it's still gone, then it's gone. And so the difference there is we have filtration and cleaning mechanisms. They just physically removed it out, hoped it stayed away, and then put it back. And so we know back in those days, thousands of years ago, what would be the source of moisture? Probably a leaking roof, or leaking structure on the side, or groundwater coming up, right? Dampness. In our cases, well, we have the other stuff. So, and we have other cleaning mechanisms for that. So what's really neat though, then it goes on. These are the regulations for mold and mildew in a house. And then it talks about purifying the house using hyssop and the blood of a bird and all this stuff. And we don't need to get into that. Although if you'd like to see our sanctuary sometime, I'm sure I could take you out there. So there's some mold remediation stories for you.